Let's talk about Vex. Vex is the newest mage in League of Legends, designed as a new answer to high mobility champions. She's tiny, she's sad, and she's ready to tilt people in solo queue when they die to her extreme damage because they don't know what she does yet. As usual, I got together with my community to test out Vex for myself, then retreated into my research hole to analyze her numbers, her matchups, and everything else about her as effectively as I could in the short period I had available. Since it's not possible to learn everything in a limited number of games, and I'm bringing my own biases to the table, please treat this video as your Vex primer to start your own learning, not a definitive guide. Vex's passive comes in two simple parts. Doom periodically empowers Vex's next basic ability to fear and knock down her enemies, with both the frequency and duration of Vex's fear scaling with her level. Gloom is applied to nearby enemy champions who dash or blink, and causes Vex's next basic attack to deal bonus damage and refund a portion of Doom's cooldown. Some of Vex's abilities apply Gloom without requiring a dash, others consume it without requiring an auto attack. If Gloom is consumed on a minion, the Doom cooldown and bonus damage are both reduced. The core idea of Vex's passive is that she gains more CC and more damage as the enemy dashes more. Vex's Q is a wide and slow-moving linear skill shot that quickens and narrows after it travels a short distance. The properties of this ability make it significantly easier to hit at close range, making it very unreliable as a poke tool. A trend in Vex's kit is that her basic abilities are extremely simple without being empowered by Doom. This ability is just damage. Q consumes Gloom. I max it first for the damage and cooldown. Vex's W deals damage in an area centered on herself while granting her a moderate shield. Again, there's no fluff, that's all the ability does, though W also consumes Gloom. Empowered by Doom, W becomes Vex's fastest and most reliable defensive fear. The highest AP ratio on Vex's entire kit is on her shield value, which does slightly devalue the base shield you gain from adding points to W. Vex's E is a circular area target skill shot that travels in a line, damaging and slowing all enemies in the area when it arrives. E has no effect during its travel time, but the radius grows as the ability travels. This means point-blank E deals damage much faster, but in a smaller radius, while max-range E is much larger, but takes longer for its effects to come out. E applies Gloom. It's the only way for Vex to apply Gloom without an enemy champion's dash. Additionally, it's her most reliable skill at range, making it the best of her basic abilities for applying offensive fears. Vex's R is a linear skill shot that damages and marks an enemy champion, allowing her to recast the ability to unstoppably dash towards that enemy, dealing a second, larger burst of damage to that champion. The initial projectile will damage all non-champions it hits and grant vision of its path, but it will only stop on hitting a champion. If a champion dies within a short period of being hit by Vex's ult, Vex gains a temporary window to recast, very similar to Pyke's or Darius' ult resets. The range of Vex's R is extremely long, but it's not very wide, making it easy to miss without setup or ambush. Vex's ultimate is easily the most aggressive option in her kit. Just to recap some findings on Vex's basic abilities, Q was the obvious first max for the cooldown and damage, but then I experimented with both W and E second, because while E's AP ratio increases with ranks and will be very significant for Vex's damage, it might be more correct to just help her survive and deter engage. I'm fairly confident now that W is a one-point wonder. On W second, Vex appears to be forced into either Minion Dematerializer or Liandry's Anguish to clear waves without stepping up and spending W, putting herself at risk. On E second, she's given a reliable wave clear pattern of casting E on the frontline minions and hitting the entire wave with Q, assuming she's not far behind. Leveling W second leads to Vex objectively getting less value from her items, spending skill points on shields instead of gold. I can see the value of gaining an extra 30 shield with the second point in W against high pressure divers like Aurelia, but investing the full 5 points early appears to be a mistake. Vex's basic combos and strings are very simple since they're all guided by the reliability of her spells. At a basic level, your damage and most of your Vex-initiated short trades come from EQ. EQ should be included in virtually every string just for the fast Gloom proc, but don't fire it too fast since Vex's fear is long and you do have a moment to check for the exact fear direction before you fire. WEQ is Vex's defensive bread and butter. RWEQ is a fast offensive variant, but ideally you have someone setting up your R because missing it feels awful. Vex's absolute fastest combo is Flash W, EQR, Everfrost, Auto Attack, R2. This is a bit more conditional because it requires flash, but it is the most likely to generate a kill from vision. Obviously, to execute any of these strings, you want Doom ready for E or W. Vex is a mid-range defensive burst mage who excels at deterring the initial engage of mobile champions. She brings very high but unreliable damage to the table, which lends itself to a very patient playstyle. While her ultimate grants her windows of personal playmaking, that too is unreliable. Generally, you're going to be using Vex to punish enemy missteps, to ambush, or to follow up your team's true playmakers to confirm a kill, which shouldn't be a surprising concept if you've played any other defensive mage. Ultimately, this means you can make some comparisons to Lissandra, but they only go so deep, and a team that relies on an engaged Vex won't find much success. In my experience, Vex seems to have a very swingy lane phase that can be instantly won or lost off a short trade attempt. Generally, I believe she should approach the early lane with a philosophy similar to Victor, alternating between being shoved in and stacking a large wave. A fast shove drains her mana rapidly and leaves her open because it will always consume her fear, so a stacked wave early is required. Pre-6, her approach must change slightly depending on matchup. Against mobile assassins and fighters, don't cast spells. Just use auto attacks and you will win any trade your opponent tries to initiate thanks to Doom. Against other mages, don't force too many trades because your non-Q spells are expensive, but feel free to fish for Doom-empowered ease if they ever get near the wave. Once Doom is down, Vex can cast to shove a little more freely because there's no passive to hold and she doesn't want to interact without it. Vex should lose almost every extended trade. After first back, as level 6s come online, Vex is significantly more vulnerable. Her ult does major damage, but can't lead to a 100-0 combo yet, unless she has a huge lead already, and she can find herself at risk to assassin ultimates even with a fear up. 6 appears to be a power trough for Vex relative to her opponents. At this point, Vex's safety comes from clearing the wave with max range Q, ideally holding her Doom Q to respond to something the enemy is doing on the wave to get some chip damage in and avoid retaliation during her wave clear. Uninteractive laning post 6 is ideal for Vex, until she can find an all-in with R or flash Doom W. So far, I've been speaking as though Vex is exclusively a mid laner, and that's because I do believe that it's going to be her best role. I played some support Vex, which didn't feel awful since it's much easier to keep Doom available, but it's obviously a counter pick. Bot Vex just gets exposed to a lot of champions who can poke her out, though she can theoretically respond very well to an engaged support's plays from either team. Top Vex seems way too vulnerable to ganks to me. Maybe it shuts down some specific matchups. It's too early to know for sure, so don't be discouraged from experimenting. I'm still going to cover runes and items as though Vex is a mid laner though. Vex's itemization doesn't seem super complicated for now. Against assassins, start Doran's Ring. Against other mages, start Corrupting Pot. Tier didn't seem essential at first, but as I got more familiar with Vex's laning, it became clear it's super useful in mage matchups where you have Corrupting Pot, and worth buying on first back to bolster her post-6 shove. I don't value Ludens right now. I think Vex is an Everfrost user who gets her pen from Sork Shoes. I've been finishing Seraphs into mages and Zhonya's against super high pressure assassins. I haven't tried Horizon Focus second into assassins, but that may be legitimate as a damage option. While Vex could be a death cap user, her highest damage ratio is 60%, her ratios aren't quite high enough to justify death cap second. I would probably value Void Staff more highly, especially if we're running Everfrost, which has no Mythic Pen passive. Beyond those specifics though, Vex is a mage. A situational item on any mage is a situational item on Vex. Demonic Embrace, Banshee's Veil, Morellonomicon, all fine options in the right games. I would just stay away from Cosmic Drive, Lichbane, Nashor's Tooth, the items that generally require a specific kind of mage kit to get value from. The rune page I found the most success on is a Domination Inspiration page for Electrocute, Minion Dematerializer, and Time Warp Tonic. I don't believe any keystone is better for Vex's kit than Electrocute. She's not good in either Poke Wars or long trades, which devalues Comet and Conqueror. If you're a Maniac with an easy matchup, I suppose you could take Spellbook or Dark Harvest. Phase Rush might be the play to prevent retaliation after her trades, but Electrocute seems to be the most reliable option. I ran Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter, but you could experiment more on the Vision or Hunter runes. I spent all Minion Dematerializer charges on casters to make Vex's post-6 power trough more manageable, then took Time Warp Tonic or Cosmic Insight depending on my starting items. It's possible secondary pages that allow you to take Transcendence or Presence of Mind are legitimate. Take the attack speed shard every game, then adaptive force and a variable resistance shard. So that's Vex, the Gloomist. Her anti-mobility niche is a little less pronounced than you might expect since it won't inherently protect her from assassins, but she still seems to be a solid defensive burst mage, especially as a counterpick. She's very simple to pick up mechanically, but her vulnerabilities and better effectiveness at short range made her feel really engaging to learn. I'm interested to see how her more specific matchups develop. As usual, I cannot possibly have learned everything there is to know about Vex before she's even released, and more time with the champion will lead to greater insights. Please report back with everything you discover about Vex to help everybody learn, and I hope this video helped you to prepare for Vex's release. If it helps, that's whatever, I guess.